Drive, Google Drive. No, poor sinking. Yeah, so that is a bad start. Am I? That's done uploading. I should have checked all these uploads before I started streaming, just to make sure that my bandwidth isn't getting absolutely fucked. But yeah, that's all good. And we are back to being stable. Yeah, so as long as Google Drive doesn't like actively sync, we're all good to go, I think. So today we're doing a little bit of an extra stream because I've got a lot of stuff to do, and I figure, you know, I might as well just stream it. Because if I'm going to stream it, I can do this at like late hours. Otherwise, I was going to do it instead of some actual work today, and work needs to be done as well. So that's kind of the very flawed logic that I used to plan to do an extra stream today. Anyway, what we're going to do is just make a basic interaction system. And what that comes down to is we're going to make an interface that does stuff effectively. First and foremost. And then when we have that interface set up, we're going to implement it in a handful of different things, like the save point, for instance, right? When we interact with the save point, it's going to open up its save menu. When we interact with, I want to make like a, I don't exactly know what I'm going to do. Either make it a component. That would be kind of weird. Or just like an actor. We'll have to figure out, but something that lets you like examine stuff in the world. So that's just like a text display actor, more or less. And from there we can build it out. We can, when we eventually add things like chests to hook into the inventory system, that'll be opened up with the interaction button. So it's called examine in the game right now, but it's going to be more than that. It's just going to be a general like interaction button, and it's going to be on the top face button. So I guess we get started with that. And for all that, I think what we're going to get started is just out of a sense of a generally smart setup. I think it is best to make this in C++. We're probably not going to actually end up using it much in C++. If I'm being 1000% real with you, but it's nice to have access to this interface from C++ if need be. Which is a little bit annoying because the way you set up these interfaces in C++ has some wrinkles to it, as I remember it. But let's just check out. I think I did it on the item metadata. Yeah, so that implements the metadata interface. So let's just open up the metadata interface. What we needed to do is just a U function as a blueprint native event, blueprint callable, and that's it. So okay, that is the thing. You don't give this an implementation. And unlike other overridable functions, because you have this U function specifier to it, you don't mark them as being virtual. So that was the thing that threw me off when I first made like this interface. Anyway, hope you have a fabulous day. So far, I'm doing quite well. I've had a productive day, to be fair. I started up a little late. I started working around like 11 a.m. today, which is a bit late, and I finished up at about 4:30-ish. So not a very long day, but a very productive one. Okay, let's make, this is just inherited from U interface. Okay, so let's make one of those. In Action RPG project, we're gonna add in a new Unreal class. Yeah, interface is just a basic one. So let's just, man, do we want to make, what are we going to call this? What makes sense? Because if it's just going to be interaction interface, there's likely only going to be one function that would deal for interaction. So maybe we make this a more general utils. It also doesn't matter if we make multiple interfaces. So let's just make a interaction interface. And then the CPP file really doesn't matter, doesn't even need to exist, to be honest with you. Because all we're going to do in the header file will be, and I'm just going to kind of like yoink this from here, to be very frank with you. Interaction interface, so we do it within the class, obviously. And we do it under the public section, because, again, obviously, the category is going to be interaction, just because. And then this will be just void interact with no parameters, maybe. Let's send actually through a actor pointer for the interactor. Is there anything else that we would need to send through potentially for an interaction interface? I don't think so. I guess we can actually return a bool on if the interaction was successful. But let's make that... This is going to be a little weird. It is a void function, but we're going to put in a... What the hell even? Why would you suggest that? Instead of making it a bool return function, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a bool reference here. For a success, just because that way in Blueprint it shows up with like a proper name as an output as well. You can call it examine. I mean, it is for a lot of things it's going to be like the examine button. The reason that I like started up with this idea is because I want to have a lot of flavor text around in the world. So from about 90% of cases where you're going to be using this, it's going to be to examine. But I think I should have general like interaction under this button as well. Is this IDE Rider? It looks different from Visual Studio. Yeah, this is Rider, which there is a link below the video, I think, maybe. Otherwise, it's like in the Discord and on a bunch of other videos. For 3 months free trial. I got that like deal before they went full, and I think they have a public plan now that is just entirely free if you're not using it for commercial purposes. So you can just like get it. And at this point, like because it is free, if you're working with Unreal, I believe they also have a C# version for Unity. I don't know much about that. And maybe they also like it works with Godot. I haven't actually checked that out. But if you're working with Unreal, like it's so nice to have like a lot of like specific, like here, this thing, it keeps track of whether or not it is used or implemented in any blueprints in the project. I can add in Unreal classes like this very easily, and there's a lot of them, right? So this is like effectively any U object. I can just make a class of inside of my IDE. It's really good. If you're working in Unreal at this point, you have no reason not to be using Rider, in my opinion. You can also do some silly stuff with it. For example, if you examine in the middle of a battle, an enemy can go slow motion, get info about the enemy. I don't know about that, but yeah, there is a lot of things that we can do with it. I mean, it's an interface, so like the sky's the limit. And if you examine an enemy and it's about to attack you, like maybe you should dodge. I mean, that is funny. it's probably a lot of work to implement that, but that is funny. Have you made a video on Rider? I don't think I have a specific video on Rider, but it's fairly easy to set up. You just download it and then in Unreal, and you like install it and stuff, of course, which links it up with your Visual Studio install, assuming you have one. But if you have Visual Studio or VS Code, you should be fine. And then in Unreal, I think it is in your project settings, your IDE, maybe it's called Code Editor. It might be in the editor preferences. Yeah, here. So source code editor in your editor preferences. It just has a drop down for Rider. as well as everything else that you have installed. So you just choose writer, and you should be good to go at that point. And then you can launch your projects like right from writer as well. So when I open up Unreal, I usually don't do it through the like Epic Games Launcher. I just open up this like writer project, and I can just open it up right here, which is nice. Also allows me to very easily do this, because we just implemented this thing in C++, right? But we need to either like live code, which is buggy at the best of times, or we need to close down and recompile. We also need to close down and recompile, but like writer just has that like refresh button built in, so that closes the currently opened up running like version of the program for you, and it just automatically like recompiles and relaunches everything. It does not, however, warn you about saving any changes. So whenever you do that thing that I just did, you yourself need to make sure that all your unsaved changes are saved. And there's also just generally, I like Rider. It's pretty good. It seems to be a little bit better with like a lot of, why the fuck is, sure, skip, restore, I don't care. I was going to say something I forgot. I mean, I like Rider is what I was going to say. I don't remember exactly why. Oh, yeah, I do. I mean, Visual Studio also has like plugins for this kind of stuff, but the fact that it, like, I'm just trying to like get to a like C++ file. Yeah, I like this kind of stuff, right? The parameters in your function actually have like this little like preview next to them to show the name of the parameter for the function, so that you actually know what the parameter is used for and what you're supposed to be given in. That kind of stuff. I do believe that Visual Studio, or at least VS Code, has something for that as well. But looks like PyCharm, but it's made by Jetbrains. So yeah, so it is like Sea Lion, the Python thing. Writer, they have a bunch of IDEs that are specialized for like specific uses. Anyway, that should allow us, oh, maybe I actually needed to mark that as a blueprint type U class. I think I did. Hold on. I think I forgot the most important part. Let's double check. Like item metadata interface. Yeah, uInterface, blueprintable metadata interface. What the fuck is going on in here? Like, why do I have this as a separate class within what the? It didn't do that for this one, did it? Oh no, it did. Huh. I don't know why it does that. It makes a class that inherits from uInterface, and then it makes an entirely separate class for some reason. Fine, I guess. Blueprints. Yeah, this type of thing, right? The like the IntelliSense, the like the code examples that it gives you. It can deal with like the uInterface and U properties and that kind of stuff. It just knows what type of things can go in there, and it has like snippets of documentation for it, which you don't end up getting in things like VS Code. So that is really quite nice. Is it blueprintable? I think I need blueprintable. I always get confused between blueprintable and blueprint type. In my defense, yeah, it's blueprintable. In my defense, they could probably be named better. The one downside to doing this is recompiling does take a while. Not that long, all things considered, but my general rule of thumb is I recompile when I add something, or change something from like a one of the members of a class, or add one member to a class. But when I just like change a line of code, that is when I live code, because that usually is fine. Okay. Now, interaction system, right? So what we do is we need the interaction button set up, and I'm going to do all that in Blueprint, because setting up button mappings in C++ is an actual pain in the ass. So let's go view and folder. Oh, we need an input action for it first, probably, right? Yeah. So let's just make one. Input action, interact. Opens up here. I don't know why I open it up, because it literally doesn't matter. Actually, it might. We'll look into that in a moment, because we have multiple things mapped to the face button top, of course. I don't like how it always opens up so much fucking stuff when I add a new input action. I don't know why it does that, but it's really annoying. I don't know, shift. Oh, left shift is already dash, isn't it? Good question. What are we going to map this to on the keyboard? I guess control? Left control? That's kind of decent, maybe? I don't know. And then we map it to the actual important thing is GameBat face button top. Now, we also have these mappings somewhere in here. Yep, for magic. And I have a mapping for special actions, which lock on is the face button top together with a corded action and being pressed. So I think what I need to do for the face button top here, I need to set its trigger to being pressed. So that way it gets overwritten by this. Because if I just map it to being started, that's not going to get overwritten, because the trigger itself doesn't get overwritten. Or like started and completed, and those type of output pins don't get overridden. It's only the triggers that get. It's weird, man, the way it works. But we're just gonna set that up right in here. Somewhere. Can you see that I am unorganized with this blueprint? I just like put things in places. It's kind of bad. Interact, please. Yes. Can we make this into a function? Nah, you can't do that. Okay. Makes sense because it has multiple different pins, but probably should have figured that out. So on triggered, what we do is, for now, what we end up doing, I think, is just a sphere overlap. We might make something for this that works better with like your rotation and like targeting related stuff, much like we do for the enemy targeting system. Only if this ends up being unintuitive, though, because I think for the most part you're only ever going to be near one thing that you can interact with to begin with, I would think. If putting this into actual practice proves me wrong about that, and we actually end up triggering this on stuff we don't want to trigger it on very often, I might make it use a similar system to what we use for the enemy targeting, but that is a lot of work, and I don't want to do that, and I didn't make those functions to be reusable very well. I probably should have. But that would be what we end up doing if we use that system, is just rewrite a lot of those functions to be more generic. For now, we're just going to do a sphere radius in 500 units radius. Object types is going to be, for the time being, I think we only really care about world static things. Probably. We don't really need a class filter in. And then the out actors. Yeah, somebody actually made a comment on the short that I made for getting the closest actor to you, pointing out that you get closest actor as just a function that exists that I entirely forgot about because let's see, there is something that we can do. I don't remember what it's called though. I'll get nearest, I think it's called. Find nearest? Let's just type nearest. Find nearest actor. So that just takes in an array and an origin and just gets you the distance and that return value. Oh, but that is... Oh, hold on. No, but we can't do that in this case, can we? Because we need to run this... Oh, that's actually a little bit more tricky. Because this is going to get me a ref to the floor, like every single time. Or like the walls that were near. So what we need to do is we need to actually loop over this and try to run the interaction interface on everything. So this is going to have to be a like nested function. So let's just make this into a function. Interact with world. I'm not going to call it interacts because that's going to be confusing. It's horribly misspelled though, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, we do actually just need to for each loop over this because I guess this technically wouldn't loop over everything in order. I don't know how the sphere trace like output is generated and if that's like based on order to begin with. It's actually an interesting question. Can we just check that real quick? Because it doesn't matter in this case, I don't think. But it's a thing that I would like to know. So let's go into my player because it's probably in gameplay static, right? So let's just gameplay statics, sphere. I can't fucking type, can I? Sphere overlap? No. I don't know what it would be in. Not in gameplay statics. Counts how many grass foliage instances overlap in a given sphere. Why the fuck is that a new gameplay statics? I know that this is a little bit of a side quest, but I want to check this out real quick. So let's Unreal C++ sphere overlap. What fucking library would that be in? Oh, Kismet function library. That makes sense. Kismet function library. Oh, that's also where print string is in C++. Actually, wondered about that a while ago. Let's do a sphere overlap actors. I just need you to go. Do I really need to? Do you really want me to like implement this as like a? You know what? I don't know where it is. We can just find it through the search menu. Feels like that's going to be faster. Or maybe it won't be. No results. It's probably because the U. No, okay. That's kind of weird. Classes, Kismet library. .h is the include for it. Yeah, but that's not how that works in actual like C++ land. I mean, these posts are from 2018, so it might have changed in that time. Would be weird to change that though. New Gizmo library. Yeah, that is the thing that I want to do. Yeah, sure, overlap actors. So that should be a thing, but it's not for some reason. I don't know why. Let's see if GitHub Copilot can do anything about that. Just at this point, for shits and giggles, honestly. Gizmo function library. Yeah, I can't find that for some reason. That's fine. Let's Google this because now I'm actually like Gizmo function library Unreal 5. Did they change it? Because otherwise I am extremely confused. I use Gizmo math library here, right? Yeah. Is it Gizmo's system library now? Because why doesn't it do the function library? It probably just... Can I just open up the Gizmo folder? I guess we just go through literally all of these. Gizmo nodes, it's probably not that, right? No. Here, Gizmo, what have we in here? Classes, internal, probably in public. A bunch of blueprint stuff. Debugging, 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 more debugging. It's all compiling stuff. Widgets, probably not what I'm looking for either. Gizmo 2. Ooh, fancy. Still not what I'm looking for. Gizmo animation library. Here we are. So material, math, node helper, rendering, string. Yeah, there's no function library. What the fuck? But it also doesn't include the math and system library, so it is still not... Oh, no, it does. But not the system one, right? Oh, no, it does. So I have to imagine that it's just renamed to system library then. Yeah, I guess I just renamed it. Can I do a sphere overlap actors? I can. Okay, cool. How does this work? That's the thing that we were doing this for to begin with. Probably could have just opened up the file from my browser there, but I actors it empties it out first, then it does a uPrimitive component overlap components bool overlapped for this sphere overlap components, which just yeah. It doesn't seem to be doing anything that I can see this like quickly anyway, in terms of like ordering them or like specifically like finding them based on distance. So probably just gets it somewhat randomly, to be honest with you. That was not the point of this at all, though. That was a major detour that wasn't actually productive in any way, shape, or form. So let's just do our interaction message to this. I guess the interactor can just be self. And then if it was a successful interaction, we return. So now, let's make a interaction test actor real quick. Because we gotta do something, right? Let's have a little bit of fun here. I need to organize this so badly at some point. Holy hell. BP interaction tester. All this is going to be a cube. We don't actually need to do anything else with it. We do need to make sure that it is set to world static. And then we need to implement that interface. So class settings, we implement the interaction interface. On interact, success. Let's just print our own name. And put a couple of those over here in the world. So, yeah, that's... I did that for the thumbnail. Let me fix that real quick. Use animation blueprint pre, please. There we go. All right, so if I... there we go. If I press the interaction button here, nothing happens because nothing around here has any interaction implementation, but this will interact just like that. So that just straight up works. If I stand in between these two, it just picks one of them. Yeah, so seemingly fairly at random, although it is now settling on just interaction 2, which is this one. So if I stand closer to this one, does it always do? No, it's always just... It's probably just the order in which they, like, appear in some kind of, like, global list, I imagine. I don't know what the logic is behind the order of them, but it works. That's the most important part for now. So, I think what we're going to do before anything else is, number one, the BP chest is horrible, because at the moment it's just using the jump input, which is fucking moronic. So, what we'll do is we'll make a custom event, which will just be open chest. And I quite like the, but we don't probably need this anymore, do we? This whole like gate situation, because we only can open this up when we're standing close to it anyway. So we can just interaction, interface, implement that, say that it was a success, and what we do is we just kind of take this from there. So yeah, we can just actually like do this entirely based on the other interface as well, which is quite nice. So we just get the inventories from the interacting actor. We don't even need to make like a hard reference to the player character class itself. Not that that matters because it's going to be always like that anyway, but technically more scalable is, right? And now our chest, which, do we have any chests around here? I don't think I ever set up any chests, so let's put one down. Doesn't need to have... We'll think about that. For the time being, it's not going to need to have the overlap sphere anymore either, which is going to result in all of this being kind of worthless as well. So let's get rid of all that. We don't need to enable input anymore because we're doing that through the interaction event. So this should now allow me to, where did I put the chest? I think this is the chest. Open up the chest. It doesn't. Why not? Surely we are triggering it, right? That is a chest, right? Yes, it is. It's not doing the thing. Why is it not doing? Oh, because I'm an idiot. Okay, we're immediately going to prevent this from being an issue in the future. We're just going to also check on world dynamic. Because that's going to be a very common issue, I imagine. And I don't want to run into that a billion times. But now we can open up the chest like this. And then we can close it. And we can open it. We can still run around and that kind of stuff when we open it. But that is mostly to do with the chests. Blueprint itself. So if we just set this to UI only, is that going to mess anything up? It might mess something up. I guess we're gonna find out. I think that should be fine, to be honest. Yeah, all that seems to work fairly well, and that still works too. So, I mean, I don't have focus on anything, like, at all. So that's a little fucked. So I guess we need to set the focus not to self. Oh, that's probably the issue. The focus is set to itself. Let's set the default focus to the close button. That might allow me to navigate through the menus a bit better. Yeah, there we go. So I can now also menu through this fairly well with my controller, which is always the most important and difficult bit. And that allows us to interact with the chest properly without having to abuse the jump button. Now, ideally, what I would do is I would actually run that overlap every single frame. And the thing that we get, that's actually, yeah, that is probably a good idea. So the thing that we get out of that interaction also needs to provide in a texture and a text so that we can update hold on. Where even is my UI? Oh, I'm not adding the UI in this. No, but I should be. Right? Hold on a moment. Let's go into just like my game world real quick. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that is warning me. I don't really care. I have UI here. Yeah, so we have this examine text, right? I want to be able to change the icon and the text based on... I'm going to mute that. Based on what is like the closest thing to me at that moment in time. So I probably want to keep track of the closest interactable actor. And I can do that with the... Yeah, so... that's probably a thing that we should be doing in C++. But the idea behind it at any rate would be that instead of doing it this way, so when we actually press that button, we're not going to do all this. Instead, what we do is, just as a proof of concept, we can always move this to C++ later if we need to. In tick, which I don't think actually does anything in the tick event for this guy in Blueprint yet. Well, there's this. That's fair. Before we do all that though, let's make this a sequence. So we're going to be doing that sphere overlap every frame. This probably could be on a timer, to be fair. We don't maybe need to do it every frame, but it's probably also fine, so who cares. We just check implement interface, and we check the interaction interface. And this needs to be a function in and of itself because we only need this to do, well, does it really matter for now whether or not we mark the first thing or the last thing as our interaction actor? Because we don't do any sorting of it either way, so it's actually just straight up random. If there's two within the 500 unit radius. So the moment we start doing sorting, we need to like break out maybe for a function, but for now it's probably like okay to do just the last one. I guess it's a few extra CPU cycles looping through other stuff after we found one. But I don't think I actually care about that, if I'm being real with you. Because the expensive part here is doing the overlap anyway. So this is fine. Let's call that the interactable actor. Now it's just going to be a actor reference. So yeah, anything that implements the interface is going to set to the interactable actor, and it's just going to be the last one that is found for the time being. So if we go back to interact with world, what we're going to do instead is we're just going to check whether or not this is valid. And if it is valid, we're going to run the interact thing on this. So this should effectively still be the same, but now we constantly have a reference to the thing that is the closest to us to be interacting with, which means that we can apply a thing to it. I don't know yet how we are going to apply a thing to it, because I haven't thought that far ahead, if I'm being real with you. But we can. And with a thing, I mean like a little widget that is like in screen space or whatever that like becomes visible. Well, oh, that's just a main menu. I need to go into the animation level. Real scared that I just fucked something up there. But yeah, so this will still work. I can still like interact with this thing or with this thing or with this thing. It's not updating. It's always just so. Oh no, it is. Do they all have the same? Also, I made that little thing that you saw pop up there. It was kind of nice. I made that this weekend. Yeah, so these should not be. Just to be sure, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to draw a sphere. Debug sphere it's called, I think. Debug sphere. With a duration of delta seconds, and then the radius will also be 500, just to see how big 500 actually is, because I think 500 should be relatively small. Why is it not drawing? What? I guess we just set the duration to fucking 1 second and we're gonna spam these things all over the place. Oh, 500 is much bigger than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, that makes sense then. Let's set this to a much smaller value, because I don't think we need to be doing any of that. To like 150. Let's do 150. I think 150 is a lot more reasonable. Yeah, that is more of like a, in this range, we want to be able to interact kind of deal, right? So we, yeah. So now we actually like get the individualized interactions fairly easily. It also looks a little trippy to have like this trail of debug things following me around. kind of funny actually. We're gonna get rid of it now though. So how's everybody doing? Yeah, so what I'm thinking, right, is What if we give this guy a widget component? And for now, the widget will just be the... this might be a better way of doing it, is what I'm thinking. Like I think I have like a target widget, or like what did I call it again? I think it's called lock-on widget. Oh, it's a material. Well, that'll explain why that doesn't work. So yeah, I want this to be drawn in screen space, and the widget is going to be the lock-on widget. Just for testing purposes, we'll make a widget for this specifically. And then what I'm thinking is at the end of that for each loop, right? This is not great to do it this way, but we'll make this better at some point. I want to set this widget, so set world location to the get actor location of this. So it is technically a widget component that exists right here on our actor, but it's going to be moving around to world space to where it needs to be, based on what we have as our interactable actor. So that's the idea. Let's see if it works. It does. It's way too fucking big, but it switches around to whatever is closest by. Holy shit! Yeah, so maybe only do that if our interactable actor is valid, obviously. But now, after we do that, the idea would be that if we have an interactable actor and we're like setting this, what we want to do is like anytime we get a new interactable actor, yeah, okay, so what we're gonna do is in our interaction interface is void, well, all that other stuff first, obviously, but void gets interaction info, which takes in an f text and a f texture 2D, just 2D, not 2D resource or anything like that, info icon. This is going to need to have a what? I don't think this is a class actually, is it? Might be. Anyway, just class that. There we go. What are you complaining about now? Unable to find class delegate enum struct f texture 2D. Oh, is it the... hello? One person that's still here? I'm glad you didn't just up and leave the moment that things dropped, which again is fair to do. I guess I can Google uparam parameters now. Unreal uparam specifiers. That's the word that I'm looking for actually, because I needed to know that. It's kind of funny that it doesn't technically count them as dropped frames because the entire stream just got the fuck out. So uparam. Okay, so I think it's just uparam ref. In a U function, you can, yeah, so Okay, so we do uparam ref, and then we can make this a reference, and then it doesn't scream at me anymore. No, it still does. Oh, because it's a struct. So I need to make this a pointer. Let's see. Categories, I don't care. Uparam. Unload classes, show display name. So yeah, this doesn't actually show what I want at all. Reconnection success. Well, at least this time it didn't take fucking 5 minutes. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is going on with the internet connection today, but nothing good. Tell you that much. Okay. Parameters, please. It has a bunch of specifiers for normal U properties, not for U params. Okay, so we're just going to, I guess. Is there any way that I can just check what specifiers I can put in through like the documentation in here? Maybe. Yeah, so I think it's just uparam ref. I think that's what I need to do. Let's figure it out. Hopefully this time I will stay up and running for longer than 2 seconds, because kind of a bad stream if it just skips around every 10 minutes. Okay, time to recompile and see whether or not that does the do. No. Overload member function not. Yeah, but that's like the point. Okay, so I clearly have understood uparam wrong. So let's just do normal uparam without anything else. See if that makes it magically into an output. Kind of doubt it, but we'll see. I guess for the function it is an input actually. So for the... Oh, so maybe we don't even need to... Oh, actually, this probably doesn't even need to be a reference for the text either. Probably can just be a text. Because I was thinking about this the wrong way around. It's the thing that implements it needs to give it in. They don't need to give it, like, get it back. It's the caller that needs to get it back. Yeah, so I think I just did a brain fart there, and it's actually the wrong way around now for the text. Like get actor info. Yeah, so it now gets in the actor. Oh, no, actually, no, that is how it works. I was correct about that. This needs to move the fuck over there. And usually you'd think to do it that way, but that's not quite how that works because it expects a pointer. Unless this is the way to do it. But that gave me an issue. Or was that because I made this a reference as well? I did this a while ago. I just don't remember in what class, so I can't look it up. Yeah, so it's this uparam issue. Man, why is there no documentation on this stuff? I guess we'll just ask ChatGPT. Because it's better than actual documentation, which is kind of sad. In Unreal C++, I need to know all the specifiers for a uparam. Display name, don't care. Tooltip, don't care. Clamp min, actually kind of useful. Clamp max, nice, okay, neat. You, I'm in. Oh, that's for the UI slider. That's also kind of nice. Meta ref indicates that the parameter passed in is a reference example. Okay, so when we do that, it should stop bitching about this, right? But it doesn't. I'm just going to try to compile and see if it compiles. Yeah, it doesn't. Because it's still expecting a refer or a pointer. Oh, hold on. So we mark it as an out. So if we mark it as an out, that literally doesn't do anything. Return value. That's it. Surely that's it. With capitalization down. That seems to ring a bell. Nope. I mean, how about you stop bitching at me that all the specifiers that I'm giving in are unrecognized and actually give me the potential stuff right in here, because that would be so much better. Because like all of this is going to take me a mortal age to get through. But UPRM out doesn't work. So ChatGPT is just like fucking making it up. Unreal UPRM outputs. Unless it somehow just doesn't work with interfaces, but that would be kind of wild. UPRM ref, object type A, UPRM ref, object type B. So this doesn't actually answer my question at all. But it does say, like, marking this as ref. I don't understand what's going wrong. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT again. In a new thread, because I think it was just making up shit there. In Unreal, I am making a C++ function in interface to be used in Blueprints. I want these two parameters to be the return values of said function in Blueprints. I am so confused right now. Corrected version of the code example. Okay. No. No, 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 no. Oh, that is upsetting. Oh, that is... Oh, that's disgusting. That is absolutely horrendous. Holy fuck. I mean, I guess it kind of... No, it doesn't make sense. Why would you need a reference to a pointer? I guess this reference is just there as a parameter for Blueprint to recognize that it is a return value, but the actual value itself is a pointer. So this does make sense, but it makes me feel like really like just dirty on the inside. Like this doesn't feel good. This feels real bad. But if it does the thing that it wants to do, I'm not going to complain. But I suddenly understand why I forgot how to do this, if this is the way how to do it, because this is fucking insane. It's building. And let's see if opening up our asset that we were working on makes it work. Interaction info, yup. It's an output now. That's upsetting. that's really bad. That makes me not happy. The next thing that I was going to do is just combine these into a struct and pass through like a struct ref as an output. That would have worked as well. But I'm glad that we figured it out. I'm not so glad with the way we had to like write that, like just purely from a visual standpoint. I guess we, instead of doing this does implement interface, since we're calling an interface function anyway, because we're going to be getting interaction info, we might as well... oh no, because we didn't... that's fine. We didn't add in a like success value on this one. I guess we don't technically need the success value on the other one either anymore if we're going to be doing it this way. Oh, I don't care. We get interaction info. And then we get the widgets. Get widgets. It's going to be a generic widget reference. So now let's make our display widget for this real quick. So technically, I guess this has to go in UI. I'm going to throw it in here because I don't care. The stream is now like stable again, right? I'm not dropping every couple of seconds anymore, or like every couple of minutes. It seems stable from where I'm sitting, but at this point, I don't know. Interaction widgets. So this is just going to be an image. Matter of fact, let's do a size box of 100 by 100 and then an image inside of that. And set this to desired on screen. And the image is going to effectively just kind of like be this. Because at this point, the only thing we have to... Oh, we'll need to change some things about how we set up the actual like prompting on the UI as well, but we'll worry about that later. Custom event, change image set by texture. Texture is going to be an input. But we're also going to check if the texture is valid, because if it is not valid, we're going to make it disappear. So if is valid, we do that, and then we also set it to being visible. So set visibility. We're going to just set it to being, I get not hit testable. I don't think it matters. Because of course it's not going to be like projected onto a screen or anything. So I don't think it makes a difference. But if we get in something that is not valid, we're just going to set this thing to being hidden. We don't want to show it anymore. And I guess this thing doesn't actually care about the text, so we can just ignore that for now. Cast to interaction widgets. Set image. Change image. Same difference to me. Pull that through like that, and there we go. Okay, so in theory, if we now go into the chest and we set its icon to being a tornado, and we go to, we can even do this theoretically through a variable on a case-by-case basis. That would probably be better. That's my bad. That's 1000% my bad, because this needs to now be the interaction widget. So it's going to be invisible, except it's not. I mean, it works. It sticks to the thing that it's supposed to stick to, and yeah, so maybe we don't do this in screen space because it's a bit weird in screen space. It also oh no, but that makes sense, doesn't it? Because there's only, yeah, so So what we do is at the beginning of this, we always set the interactable actor to being false. I don't know if this is going to make it flicker. I don't think it will. And only set it to something new. Like here at the very end. Okay, we're going to change the order of these things around a little bit. Because I think this is going to work a little bit better this way. It's also just too big, I think, is part of the issue, but that's not the issue that I'm looking into, like, right this moment. This should significantly improve matters already. Yeah, so now it's only visible when we're actually, like, close to something. That also, yeah, it's still massively too large. But it's not only visible when we're close to something that has an image to give. So let's set this to like 15 by 15 instead. So that it's actually like icon sized. Huh. Yeah, so this is actually, yeah, draw size. So that needs to be like, let's do 75 by 75. It entirely ignores the size box. That's better. So now when we're close to something, it shows an icon that shows that we can interact with it. And when we leave, it doesn't. Now we just need every interactable actor to have that. Which is not great. Which brings me, okay, so we probably also should make it adjustable where, yeah, where it should put that, right? So my thinking is we don't like check for this interactable actor thing at all. And what we just do is we set widget 1's location to another output value on this. And you'll see why in a moment. So if we go back into here and give this another output, so that will be f vector ref interactable location. Make sure everything here is saved. Recompile. We're now also going to be given in a location where it should display that thing in the world. Which means that we can now give in like the location of a specific component or a specific socket or just a hard-coded position with like an offset or whatever. Like get actor location plus Z100. So that's always 100 units above the actor location or whatever. The reason that I want to do that is because right now, after we get all this to work, what I want to do is I want to make a fairly generic type of actor. That's going to have just like an arrow or just a scene component that's going to decide where the icon pops up. So that if I want to make like an examine text or something like that. Well, no, because I still think I will want to do that. Maybe. And we'll talk about why in a moment, I think. But let's first check out if that ID works, and then we'll jump forward into making an actor that deals with this. So now we have an interactable location, and that interactable location is going to be just a scene component. Honestly, can we not make a basic scene component? I guess we do it with an arrow instead. It's fine too. So we put this arrow like a decent way above, and then get interaction info is just going to be get world location from that arrow. And now that thing is going to be rendering at a little bit above in theory. It's not. I think it's rendering at 0, 0, 0. Yeah, so it's... I guess the arrow, because it doesn't show in the viewport, like it's hidden in game. If we disable it as being hidden in game, I think it works. No, it just... I remember this being an issue. I just don't remember why it is an issue. The way I worked around this last time, I think, is just adding a... adding a scene component. I just called scene instead of scene component because fucking course. So let's do it with this component instead, because the scene component itself will still have a transform. For some reason, the arrow is a special kind of stupid and doesn't really work that way, but scene components will. So now this... Fuck. Why? Why do you do this? Oh, I think... No, that's my fault. Need to pull that through. So now, just out of curiosity, it's going to be a scene component. Well, actually, for us, it's probably going to be a billboard. Now I think about it. It actually works a little bit better than a scene component. Because we can take this billboard and we can just say, you should, like, do I have like an eye icon? We have a magnifying glass, I suppose. What the hell? What is it called? What? Let's try to figure this out. Is that default previews? Oh, it's called find, because that is a logical name for something like that. Anyway, yeah, that should definitely be much smaller, though. That's a little big. It's a tiny bit big, but now that it's like a billboard, it's a nice workable solution in game. So like in the viewport, we'll have that billboard icon. We'll make a better icon. I'll make something in Photoshop for that or whatever. But now it should, yeah. So it actually shows up at the location of that billboard component, which is just a lot more workable, to be honest with you. And if it doesn't have a image, it just doesn't show up at all. But now, if we go in and we go to these test actors real quick, we can implement get actor info. These can show the lightning strike, and we'll just add in another like billboard component. We'll just keep this one as is. Get world location. It's important that it's world location, of course, and not local location, because that will be not the same. And now, yeah, so it shows up for whatever I'm about to interact with. So, yeah, that works quite fantastically, actually. Which means that I think now we make an actor that's specifically intended for general ability to interact with, and give that ability to like areas in the game specifically that we don't really have the actors for. Just like decoration and like, again, just a little bit of like flavor text, that kind of stuff. So the thing that I was thinking about doing is making a BP interaction actor. Well, actually, let's make this a BP examine actor. Examine actor. And I was kind of thinking that it should work with just a box collision for the collider. We're going to turn off the generate overlap events. It's going to be set to world dynamic, that's fine. I don't know if the overlap will show up as a part of the like sphere trace, or the sphere, whatever the fuck. So we'll need to figure that out. But that's not a huge issue. And then, of course, we put in a billboard. We're just going to stick with that icon for now because it's honestly fine. And then we implement that interface. So interaction interface. We'll actually set up the interaction in a moment. It's not going to be that relevant for now. The icon is going to be mine. The interactable location will be billboard, get world location. And the wonderful thing is, if this works the way I want it to work, it's going to register it as being close enough when we're close enough to the collision box. So we can actually be further away than the 150 units from the actual like interaction billboard location if we want it to be. Which would be kind of cool. But let's test if this even works to begin with, because it might straight up just not. So this is the examine actor. I guess we... let's just put it at the edge here so that it's easy to find. If we go up to here... Okay, that seems to work. So that is fantastic. Now, if I go into the box and I make the box like a bunch larger, right? Like I make the box like all the way like over here, and then I set the billboard icon to be over here. So it's like, hey, you can examine this block or something like that. It's going to show up when I am like quite far away from it, and it's going to stay visible as I'm quite far away from it. And at, like, even in this range, it is going to be interactable. So that is the basic idea. I think I'm just going to be placing down a bunch of these actors for the flavor text. Because this will allow me to just put down actors wherever, and not have it be like tied to a component, which then how do I like even check if something has like the specific components as well as the interaction like interface, because it's all going to be different based on like actual like per level, per instance, per situation kind of deal. So I think making a separate actor for this very same, like this very exact purpose makes sense. So yeah, that's probably the way that we're gonna go about doing that. Now though, I think it'll be fun to make a quick little UI thing that just pops up with some flavor text. And that's remarkably easy. You've actually seen me do it in the dialogue course already if you followed that. So we're going to do this ever so slightly like differently and a little bit more structured, I think. Because it'll be nice to have a typewriter effect text in general. So we'll make a user interface. This was what I was looking for, sorry. Typewriter text. And now I gotta remember how I actually did these because it's been a while. For you guys, this video came out like a week and a half ago. For me, it's been 2 months since I recorded it. So that is the issue. Let's say new text. And then also have one finish text. Oh, that's, we need to make a custom event finish text. It's going to bother me that that doesn't have a capital T, so let's fix that. And then I think the only thing that we really need to do here is just a text. We could add a rich text block if we really wanted to, but that makes things difficult with the typewriter, and I don't think we necessarily need to do any of that. So we're just gonna keep it like this. Design on screen. Text block, we can just keep that as a default text, honestly. And then I don't know why text isn't automatically made as a variable. Like 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to make text variable. It's kind of really annoying. Set text. Oh, we're having trouble again, because of course we are, but it was only momentary this time, so that's fine. And then I think, yeah, what we'll do is we'll make a variable for like the goal text, which will be a string. And when we finish text, we're just going to like immediately set the text to our goal text. And I mean, we made a for each loop with a timer in it in the course, but I think I'm actually going to try to do this a slightly different way this time around. I think we're just going to make it all in here with like 2 different functions. Which may be a little weird to do it that way. But I don't like messing around with the like macros. It's kind of, yeah, I don't like it. I just don't. So when we set the new text, what we do is we get our text goal first and foremost. Like we set our new text goal. Then what we do is I think what we can just do is add next character. I guess we don't need a variable for current text, actually. I think what we can just do is we can just get it from this get text. Yeah. Let's make a current text variable, just because I think that's going to be a little bit easier to deal with. So what we do is the goal text, what is it again? I think it's like to array or something like that. Parse into array. Gets an array of strings from a source string divided up by a separator. That's not quite what I want to do. I think it's like characters. Get character array from string. That's it. So we promote it to variable, character array. And this is why we used a for each loop last time. Now I remember. But what we're going to be doing instead is we'll just like keep a like index integer around in here itself, which means that we're effectively making a for each loop anyway. But that's fine. So we set that to 0 always as well. And then we start by adding the next character. And next character will just get our current text and append to that the character array at the current index. So get a copy. And then we set our current text to that now. And then we delay for, let's say, 0.1 seconds. And then we just add next character again. Which we only do actually if our index is less than or less than equal to. I always, these off by one things fuck with me. I think it's just less than, right? Yeah, I think it is. So it's just when this is less than the array length, do we call it again? Because otherwise we don't need to call it again. Obviously, this might need a little bit of work, but this is effectively like a for each loop still. I think this is just a little bit more readable. And one of the upsides of Blueprint is being able to like easily use that delay node. Which if you're gonna like work with a macro library, that's suddenly like a lot more annoying to deal with. So in theory, even if we call new text, it's going to just like reset this from 0 anyway. So this should actually work fairly well, I think, hopefully. Let's make a widget that uses this typewriter text now. So user interface, let's do a widget blueprint. User widgets, let's call this text box. I'm just going to make this a canvas panel because I don't care. We'll add a border to that. This border will be very poorly aligned, is what it will be. Hold on, let's just do this. Oh, that's the size. Now I actually wanted the size to be... Okay, we align this to the center. That's how we do it here. We align that to the center. Actually, let's align this to the bottom. And then we just position it up a little bit more. And then I think if we... Yeah. So now we can more easily make sure that everything is like properly centered. So let's do something like this. Inside of that border, we're going to put an overlay. Because I want to put a couple of things in here, like a background blur. And then the border itself, actually, before I forget. I'm unlikely to forget, but I want to make this like... that's the wrong brush color is what I want. There we go. 50% and only black. And then this is going to... Why doesn't that... Oh, the overlay itself needs to also do that. There we go. And then the border, I think we can also make like have slightly rounded corners, maybe. That kind of neat. I think there's a thing for that. Oh, that might have been the image. The border might not have that. For now, it's fine. We can always style this a little bit later on. It's not essentially it's not the most essential thing right now. blur strength. There we go. Set that to like 11 sounds good. Maybe even a little less, like 8. And then we add in a typewriter text. In the overlay, not to the background blur. That would be weird. Now, there's a little bit left to be desired for the typewriter text. I will be the first to admit. First and foremost, why is it black? Oh, it's black because the border has the content set to being black. Yeah, now that makes sense. But the border, oh yeah, the text is being rendered on top, not on top, but below the border, isn't it? Yeah, so what we do is we just replace this with child instead, and we put the border in here. And now it's on top. And now it's not. But it still needs to be turned black and about 50% opacity. Some reason that seems like the background blur is more powerful now. That's kind of weird. Yeah, and then this is probably best of having like 5 pixels of padding on each side. Ooh, what the fuck? Why does it do that? Oh, that was just a little like optical illusion. Yeah, just like 15 pixels of padding on each side. And when this gets added, we set the... Yeah, so I think typewriter on construct is just... what do we call it again? New text, just as an empty text. And then we can just make a function in here that forwards new text to that as well. So what we just do is we just custom event, update new text. And that just copies over the new text like this. And I guess that's another widget that's just always going to like exist. Kinda. Maybe. No, actually I don't think so. Maybe. Maybe it will. For now, let's not do that and just worry about this. How are we going to... I guess it will only get added when the game, like the input is set to game only for the most part. So for now, what I'll just do is input action attack. We'll just remove this from parent. We'll fine tune that at some point, I'm sure. And let's use this testing action for all that I can. So on interaction, instead of printing out our own name and doing all that, what we do is we create a widget, text box, and then we do a new text. This is a test. And then we return success because I guess we're still doing that. So if I... Oh, we never added to the viewport. Okay. That might be a slightly important oversight on my end. Let's do that first. And then we'll see if it actually works or not. So text block. So yeah, I think the answer might be no. maybe it doesn't quite work yet. Why though? Because it should. Update new text is that new text, which sets the goal text. Actually, this should set the new text. Character array. It should always just, even if we supply a nothing, it should set it to nothing appended with nothing, right? Oh, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. We never did this. So it's never actually going to set the text itself. It's updating the variables probably without a problem. But it also should then be actually using that variable for current text to actually set the text. It's probably not a altogether unnecessary step to do. T. It also like does the text block thing for like a split second, which I'm not a huge fan of. Don't know why it does that. I would rather not get rid of it though. Which is weird, right? Because it certainly... I guess instead of doing this, hold on, the text box itself, instead of doing this on construct, we might need to do this on init. We can do it on construct as well, but that way it does it before it gets added to the viewport, because on construct only runs when it gets added to the viewport, so still flickers with text. This is why like widgets fucking give me a headache, man. Because there's nothing about this that should work like that. We're creating it, we're setting the new text, and then we're adding it to the viewport. So when we get to this bit, it should have gone through all this and be inside of this delay. Oh. Okay, so in this case, it was my bad. But sometimes it does weird stuff, man, I'm telling you. Also, it doesn't seem to be doing anything other than the first character, so that's a little weird, but we can look into that in a moment. Yeah, it only does the first character. I'm also not incrementing the integer anywhere, so we probably should be incrementing that, but that's only going to make the problem worse, not better. So that's like that's not going to solve us here. Yeah, it's just T. If the length, if the index is less than the length, do the next one. I guess what we can do instead, which is a little less good for like performance technically, but if we just check if the current text is not exactly equal to our goal text yet, then we just keep on going. This way it's comparing two strings instead of two ints. That is a lot more expensive. But it's also not going to be something that's instant, like all the time, all over the place. And okay, so the issue actually is not to do with that integer thing, because if I do this, it only does the first one as well. So it just doesn't run add next character again. Might be some built-in protection of calling a function within itself directly? No, because I literally did that like today or yesterday. So this is probably why you use a for each loop, eh? Let's just test whether or not it's running this over and over again to begin with. Yeah, it's definitely running it over and over again, so that's not the issue. So then what is happening? Because current text should be getting updated, but it's still only ever receiving the first letter. So it's getting our current text and appending the next letter from the array to it. That should work. It's only doing it for the first one. So index not incrementing for some reason. No, the index is definitely incrementing. I mean, it printed out 0 a couple of times in a row there. That's weird. But aside from that, let's print out the letter that we're trying to add. Maybe it's unable to like get those for some reason. Yeah, it only returns something 41st. Well, what the fuck? Returns an array that contains one entry for each character in the source string. Let's get the length of this thing. It's setting the array to being empty. Where is it setting? Oh. I think I know what the issue is. Maybe. Let's go back in here. I think it's just triggering this thing over and over again. No, but that still shouldn't. Where is the interaction thing? Somewhere in here. Yeah, so input action interacts, right? If we just change this to started instead of triggered, does it make a difference? Because it might be just firing that event a bunch and overloading that. Nope. So that's definitely not the issue. Let's keep it at started for the time being. So why and where is it setting? Let's skip this. Might be getting confused due to that for some reason. Would be kind of weird if it did, but okay, that is actually the issue. So our test text works. So why does it? I guess it really doesn't like that running on the same tick for some reason. Doesn't really matter if we just do it this way. So yeah, now we can get rid of all this and we can go back to just comparing the integers, which is also a good thing. So choose array. What we're doing, like length, right? And then we were branching out. And we wanted to check if the index. Actually, copy both of these over. We wanted to check if the index is less than the length, because then we need to keep on going. We might need to do this before the increments. Or maybe after the increment, I don't know. It's probably better to do it before the delay anyway, technically speaking. This is a test. Well, that seems to work fairly well. Oh, and then we needed to check if it actually disappears when I press attack. It does. Okay, fantastic. Now, I didn't really think through any of this in any more depth than we are right now. So what do we do if we have something that has more than one bit of text? I guess what we do... Yeah, this might become slightly more complicated fairly quickly. So what we probably want to do is we probably want to bind to the interaction button instead. So interaction, like interact. Maybe that's not intuitive though. Meshing like the triangle button to mesh through dialogue. It's a little weird. But I think it's the easiest way to set it up for now. And then what we're going to do is we just add in an array of strings that we make our way through, I guess. Right? Like dialogue. And make that like a string array. And expose that on spawn. And we just start with get 0. We do that instead of update new text. We do that on event construct. For the first one, and then every time after that, I think what we need to do is we need to make an index again. We do just exactly the same thing that we did with the individual characters, but now we do it with like entire strings, effectively, right? So we keep track of the index that we're on. Every time after that, we do the next one, we check whether or not the index is less than the array's length. But we need to increment the index up there as well. I'm actually pointing to my screen as if you can see that. Obviously, you cannot. But we also need to like increment the thing over here. So yeah, this is also a good test to see if we can like skip over dialogue instead of just finishing it up. Which I think is just going to be like a neat thing to have as a possibility anyway. But what I think we'll actually end up doing is when you press it as it is still filling out, it'll fill it out. And then if you press it again, once it's filled out, then it skips to the next one. But for now, we just like do it like this. And we use the index. And if we press it and this is no longer true, then we remove from parent, which does take a moment to like garbage collect up. So that's going to be a problem for checking for validity. So we'll see. But in theory, this should make this no longer needed. And then we just, I guess, I mean, this is a little messy, right? Like making an array like this. This is a test. We are testing. Very testing. Much tests. Okay, it works. Yeah, so let's just see if that does what we hope it does. So we... Oh, hold on. No, there's one thing we need to do still. Because it's going to be adding a new one every single time. So we only want to add this. And we'll move all this code over to the other actor in a moment. We can just copy paste this. But we'll only do this if like promote to variable text box UI. If that is not already valid. So if it's already valid, we just kind of ignore the input from this one. That has a bunch of different other problems as well, though, because, you know, I think what we're gonna do is actually on event construct, we're also going to get the player controller. Oh no, but we can't set it to UI only, can we? Because then this input action won't work. So then we would need the input action to fire through. No, but the input action won't work at all. Didn't they just change something in 5.5 for that actually? Let's go and check that out, because I think they might have, and that might have been a really good thing. That might be saving my ass right now. Because I seem to remember something like trigger and paused, value type, advanced, no. Oh, I thought it said something about UI stuff, but maybe not. Trigger and pause, reverse all mappings. Was it maybe in the mapping? That would be a weird place to put that, though. I seem to remember something, though. Unreal 5. I'm just going to Google it real quick. Unreal 5.5 input action UI. I think it might be that it works better with Common UI now, but I'm not using Common UI because it's a headache. Yeah. So the issue that I have, right, is that I don't want the character to be able to walk around while it's like examining something with an examine text. I guess the way we can go about doing that instead is get player character, disable inputs, and then we'll get player controller. And then when we remove this, we get both of these things as well. We remove from parent, but not before we enable input on it again. That will also prevent us from opening up the dialog box a second time, actually. So this is a much cleaner way to do it to begin with. So this is we are testing. Very test, much tests. Okay. Okay, I don't think that works. And that is that's easy to fix though, because the issue is that the current text needs to be cleared out at the beginning here as well when we get a new text. So with that taken into account, we are testing, very testing, much test. Okay, it works. and then it disappears. So yeah, all that works. And while I am reading this stuff, I can't move around, I can't attack, I can't do shit, which actually makes it very easy to swap back to using the attack. So input action for attack, because that is just a more logical way to do that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now, let's, in typewriter text, make a bool is finished, which will of course also set to being false whenever we get a new text added to it, this thing. And then we'll, when we don't add a next character anymore, we set it back to being true. And then when we finish text, we also like hard set it to being true. That allows us to go back into the text box here, and we can then first check if our typewriter get is finished. If it is finished, we move on to the next, and otherwise we finish the text, like instant finish. And that should now... I really hate that it doesn't properly capture my mouse. Not quite. That might be because I'm on triggered and not on started. Let's check that out real quick. Because I think I'm supposed to be binding that to started. Doesn't quite do it, does it? Oh, because there's also, yeah, that makes sense. We should also immediately set the current text to the goal text. Otherwise, it's going to... Yeah, okay. And actually, if we're going to do that, I think what we should do is we should put this... this check maybe earlier on. Let's just see if this ends up doing anything weird. I think it will. Yeah. To be honest, we can just put a like hard stop here for is finished. Like only if this is not yet finished do we want to add some more stuff. Otherwise, just like fucking ignore everything else in that function. It's a bit of a dodgy way to do it, but I mean it's a way that's working. So yeah, we now effectively have an examine text system that works. Yeah, so this was kind of the issue. Is when we remove this thing from parent, it doesn't like invalidate the thing, especially since we still have that variable to it, so it's actually going to stay valid. So in the this one, can we like on removed from parent or something? Like what kind of bindings do we have here? Binding visibility changed. Nothing too great, to be honest with you. I guess we can make a event dispatcher of our own, actually. On removed. And when we remove this, wherever it might be, it's the typewriter. That's not what it wants to do. Text box instead. So we do on remove. One of these days I'm going to spell things right. So yeah, when we remove things, we just call this out, and that gives us an event dispatcher to bind to. And for ease of use, let's just... oh, we can't make this into a... okay. Then this is the moment where we move this from the test actor to the examine actor. So bind on removed. We create an event. We create a matching function, which on UI removed, which will just, what? Did we make that a local variable? Oh, we just didn't make it a variable yet. That's right. Create variable. So Textbox UI is just going to get set to nothing there. So that will allow us to create a new one after we initially have gone through it once. Because we need to manually invalidate it, otherwise it's going to stay in memory forever. And now it'll expose it for the garbage collector to clean it up at some point. I guess we want to return this with a success as well. That should let us compile. And that should now not work on those actors anymore, actually. So let's put in the examine actor, which I can just do through here, I think. Yeah, the examine actor. Where even is my cursor? What the fuck? There we go. Don't do weird stuff. Cursor is weird. Sometimes Unreal does this lately, and I don't really know how or why, but it just messes with your cursor, and it's really annoying. For the most part, the billboard is actually probably just going to straight up stay in the center of the collision box, but it's nice to have the option to move it around if we need to. So we can interact with this. This is a test. We are testing, very testing, much tests. Okay, it works. And then we can immediately do it all again. So we have our examining text. And everything works with the interaction system. So from here on out, it's mostly a matter of just implementing these into the world, into the levels, when there is art to actually implement these with, because at the moment, a lot of block meshes aren't very interesting to examine. But that can just give a little bit more flair to the world and just make it a little bit more come alive a tiny bit. So that was the goal for today. And I think we have kind of accomplished it. So, the one last thing that I actually do want to do is I think I want to go into the save point and make it work with the interaction system as well. That does change things up a little bit, though. How do we do that? There's also some bug with the save system, instant healing you, but we'll take care of that later. Because the issue right now, the way it works, I think, is on begin overlap, we just start applying this stuff. And then, how do we even deal with that on the player side, actually? Can open save menu. It's just a bool that gets... Okay. I mean, I guess open gameplay menu, it's nice that this still works the same way. So... Why does it call on inventory update? Oh, for the item slots as well. No, that makes sense. So I guess we just run on open gameplay menu when this thing gets interacted with, right? The only thing that I'm worried about is that if we're standing right here, we're still going to be able to interact with this thing. So what I actually needed to do, and that's, oh no, that shouldn't be that difficult. Let me just try this. We implement the interaction. There we go. The interaction interface. We don't really need to get this info or anything at all. Maybe actually the info for save, and that's another thing that we probably needed to look at, is updating like the actual UI preview for all that. But we just check on the collision, get overlapping actors. And we can just filter all our third-person character. Which is only ever going to be one of them. So we just get a copy. If that copy is valid, it's still going to be a generic actor object reference. That's kind of too bad. But then we can cast to third-person character and open. That doesn't work. I guess it's not blueprint callable. It's only a blueprint implementable event. Why does this? It's not blueprint visible. Oh my goodness. If you're going to need to recompile for that anyway, we might as well just like first and foremost save everything. Like checkpoint, yeah, okay, I know. The fact that it doesn't compile isn't really the issue right now. That means that we want to go into, oh my god, where is it? I need to scroll up like a lot now. This is all built-in stuff. There we go. So somewhere in here we have the checkpoints. There we go. The header file, please, where we capture component, blueprint, read only. That should allow us to read from that. And then in the player character, open gameplay menu, blueprint implementable event, also blueprint callable. Because I want to be able to call it from a different blueprint as well. So you see how it is fairly easily, again, we're working with interfaces because that just allows for this very easily, but it's very easily like scriptable on a class by class basis now on what it actually does, because now the save point is not just going to do what we tell it to do or do something when we tell it to do something. Anytime it's within our overlapping reach, it's also going to check, hey, are you actually overlapping with me as well? Before it actually allows you to use it as a save point. Not when you're standing near it, you're actually need to stand inside of it. Whereas things like the examine text might allow for like a slightly bigger radius due to the collision box, and then the chests you need to be actually like straight up very close to, and all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of neat. Interfaces are the fucking best thing ever. I don't know who invented them, but they are a genius. Let's go to the checkpoint. Here we go. Okay, so collision doesn't complete anymore, and now we can open gameplay menu, which if we're overlapping with this thing, will mean that we are setting the gameplay menu value to being true, which means that we can like do stuff. So interaction, the interaction doesn't work for this dude at all. Oh, that makes sense. But when we go to here, the interaction button opens up this now. But the normal gameplay menu still also opens it up. Also, hello GLS. So we can now interact with the save point through our interaction system as well, which is quite nice. And we still have this as a test. We are testing, very testing, much test. Okay, it works. Now, the only thing that we would need to worry about is now setting the examine like icon and text there, which is maybe a little difficult to do, but we might actually be pretty well off because we're already setting it every frame anyway, and that is a little wasteful. But is well, maybe not necessary, but it's the way I'm doing it. Okay. I think we're setting it every frame. Let's make sure that we check. I think in here in the tick event we're setting it every frame. Don't even know what the fuck this is about. If a player is from there just to my tick event. And I guess we only need to update the preview. Well, no, we need to update the preview always. Let's do this a different way. I have a better idea. Let's put this back here. And then take our HUD reference and down here what we do is update default or default, set default previews. And set default previews at the moment just had everything hard set, but we can use this find icon and we can say top texture. And then we'll also set the top text. Oh, you can't see that, I'm sorry. And if the top texture like is valid, well, do the macro, is valid, we'll set it to one thing. And if it is not valid, we'll just set it to like a handful of defaults. So we had this thing called find, and then we call it examine. Right, so this is, if this is not valid, we just set it to the default, but otherwise we set it to the combination of, that is not what I want to do. We set it to the combination that we're giving in. So that should pretty much work, I think. So if we now go back in here and we just pull through the icon info and the top text. Yeah, that was gonna complain at me anyway. This should, why doesn't it show that UI anymore now? It showed it a moment ago and now it just doesn't want to show anymore. I guess, oh, I guess it never gets added until I go into this and I go back. Okay, cool. Yeah, so now it dynamically shows the icon for the examining that I can do when I'm near it. So the this will show the thunder, and we can now also start like looking into, we go into the examine actor, for instance, and we go into the interfaces for the get interaction info. We can say check. And for the checkpoint, which is somewhere around here, oh, there we go, I found it. We can get the info. That's actually interesting because this, oh no, that makes sense. The icon info for this can be the skulls, and we can say save game. And the interactable location we'll just set to 0, 0, 0, because we don't need that to show up, I guess. There might be something to giving this a bool as well for wanting to show up or not. But then again, we can also, like on this side, doesn't matter if this is hard code. This is not like going to be something that I share around all that much with other people. So it can be bad. It's kind of the thinking. Like we can just check if it's not equal to 0, 0, 0 with a margin of about 1. Just to make sure. And there we where do we even set it to being visible or invisible? Do we even do that anymore? I guess we do that in change image. So I guess change image itself needs a like a bool in it. That's fireworks. What the fuck? Is visible. And before we check anything else, we can just check, hey, if it is supposed to be visible at all, we can do the rest. But if it is not supposed to be visible to begin with, we just set it to being hidden anyway. And that way, in the player character, we can just hook this up to being is visible. And if we don't have any like location for it set, it also won't show up. But, and this is the wonderful thing, it will still update our UI, like the bottom left, like the saying save game. And now it says nothing. The fact that it says nothing is kind of worrying, because it should then default back. Where is my HUD? Why is it do? Oh, because I never hooked this up. Okay, no, that is fine. So we go here, we go back, it's a save game, and then it goes back to examine. And then it goes check, and back to examine. So that also works now. That's fantastic. I thought that was going to be more of a headache, but that means that I think we effectively have our entire like interaction system working, which means that tomorrow on stream, I'm going to be streaming again tomorrow, because today's stream was just a little bonus, because I felt like doing some work on stream, which ended up with a lot of internet issues. But hey, what do you know? Didn't know that before. Tomorrow we're going to go into doing some item stuff, because I spent a lot of time this weekend improving the workability of my inventory system from like a user perspective. So now we have this detail editor for the asset, so I can say a bunch of different types of, like, effectively any data asset I can change with this. Like the event has happened, it's not an item thing, but I can still like go through them and change values in them. So this is just a general data asset editor. But I also made drop tables, and the cool thing about drop tables, I can also make new assets, by the way, through that thing, so that's quite nice. But the cool thing about drop tables is if I just like go in here, by the way, I also added some factories for them, so I can just make drop tables now like this. And I can also make items like this. So when I go in and say inventory item, it prompts me with all the potential item classes that it knows. And I can make items with that. But let's just stick with the drop table for now. That just has an array of items with a drop rate, and then they also get given a random color. And you might be thinking, why do they get given a random color? Well, if I refresh this list, you will note that in this detail view, I don't have it in the actual detail view, it's just in this widget it gets baked in. I want to embed it in the actual detail view, but that is a little bit more difficult, so I'll need to worry about that later. It gives you a like visual breakdown of how likely everything is in a percentage to drop. So if I add another one, when an item is empty, it just shows up as black. And then if I say, oh, this one actually has a weight of 7 and these two have a weight of 1, it calculates, okay, that means that these items have an 11 percent chance of dropping, and this one has a 77% chance of dropping. And when I add some new items, it always keeps it up to date. So this took longer than I altogether, I'm willing to admit. But this also makes creating drop tables for my enemies a lot easier, because it gives me a good indication of, okay, how likely actually are these things to drop, and how do I need to tweak these values in a way that is more intuitive than weight values, because weight values are fairly abstract and fairly like weird. Having them converted into like a table of these are the actual percentages of how likely everything is to drop from this drop table is just so much more user friendly in the end. So that's why I made that. And now I also like accidentally made an entire like data asset editor in general, which is kind of nice. So yeah, the entire like editor user experience for the inventory system has been greatly improved with the work I've done this weekend. Still a lot of work to be done, obviously. But I think tomorrow we're going to get into setting up the code to make the drop tables actually generate a drop and then create that drop in the world. And maybe if we have some time left after that, of course, we need to fill out a bunch of drop tables for a bunch of different enemies, but that's probably not going to take that long. We might get started on looking into implementing the crafting in C++. That's all going to be tomorrow, though. So tomorrow is going to be centered entirely around like the inventories and the items and the drop tables and all that kind of fun stuff. And then on Thursday, we'll probably pick up where we left off with the inventory stuff. So that by the end of the week, the like item-related stuff is effectively entirely done. We might set up something like a shop as well if we have time this week. Otherwise, that'll be next week. And once that is in place, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to play test this thing to hell and back myself. Probably do like an entire stream of just playing the game and finding issues, fixing the issues right on the spot, and then moving on to finding the next issue. And after I've done that for like an entire stream and then some, I'm going to do the rest off stream. I'm not going to like do 5 streams of just testing. It's going to be okay to put this up on Steam playtesting, I think. So we're getting close. Like around the holidays is when the playtest, I think, should be ready. Which is, well, when everybody is busy having a life. So expect like immediately the start of 2025 to be able to playtest a game if you want to. That would be very, very helpful for me. So we're getting very close to that. And as the playtests are happening and I'm getting feedback, we're probably going to be implementing 1 or 2 more enemies that are going to be a bit easier to create than the enemies that I've been making so far. Because a lot of the enemies that I've been making so far have been fairly complex in a lot of ways. But what we're going to do is I want to make a slime and I want to make a mimic, because those are 2 very like staple RPG enemies. And especially now that I have an inventory system, it makes sense for me to be putting down some chests in places. And if you have an RPG that has chests, you are legally obligated to add in mimics into your game. Right? So those are 2 enemy types that I want to make. Those are probably going to be a little bit easier. To be fair, going forward with like the cell shading style, which now that we're a couple of weeks in, like 2 weeks, I think, a week and a half into having this effect applied to the game, I'm fairly sold on the idea of keeping it. That means that a lot of the enemies are going to be significantly more simple as well, in terms of at least like normals. They're not going to have normal maps anymore. I think I showed this before at some point, but normal maps absolutely destroy the cell shader. Detailed normal maps, anyway. So what we're going to do is we're still going to like sculpt high detail versions of everything, but only for it to like be able to procedurally apply like color textures that way in Substance Painter. We're not going to actually use any normal maps anymore going forward. But that also means that we're probably not going to go as minute in all the tiny detail sculpting as we might have in the past. So that means that a part of that character creation process will probably be somewhat simplified as well, in a more like general wider sense. Of course, a big part of things is still going to be like animating and stuff. That said, for the slime and for the mimic, I think making the animations and the abilities for them is going to be remarkably straightforward as well. So that's probably two enemies that we can knock out fairly quickly. We don't want to spend like a month per each one of those enemies like we did with like this Reaper, for instance, and like the zombie dude. We spent quite a lot of time on. And I'm very happy with how we came out, by the way. Like, especially now with the cell shader. He looks really quite good. But that's going to be probably what we do when the playtests are happening for like a couple of weeks. Just do some stuff that needs to be done anyway, but that's not impacted by the results of the playtest most likely. So that's probably going to be what we do like early 2025. Like the first couple of weeks of January. And then when I have had people play through and I've been able to like read through and hopefully watch through some footage of people playing the game, hopefully that will give me a good direction to see where things need to change. And once we've done that, and I've made those changes, and it doesn't turn out that the level design for the entire purple dungeon is entirely shit and we need to start over, which hopefully that's not the case, we can start working on some art assets for that dungeon, which is really exciting because once that is in place, we effectively have one finished dungeon, like as an entirety. Like the dungeon as a whole is going to be finished. Doesn't mean, well, about 80% finished. Because I'm sure that we're going to be like tweaking and replacing some enemy types as more enemies get made for the game. Adding in maybe some more enemies and tweaking the boss AI as well. Because the boss AI at the moment is still a little like iffy. But that means that we have effectively, after we do all that art stuff, we effectively have 1/6 of the game done. And that'll only have taken like 2.5 years at that point. Which sounds a lot worse than it is, because once we have that little ball rolling and once I know that the thing that I made is like playable and people are maybe hopefully even like slightly enjoying it, making the other 5 dungeons is going to be significantly faster. At that point, I think we can make a dungeon every 3 or 4 months. Which still means that it's going to be another 1.5 to 2 years of work. We probably can make like quite a lot of progress there. Anyway, that's just a general like roadmap that I have. I don't know if we're going to be able to follow it. Knowing me, I'm going to get distracted making some other stuff. I also entirely forget that I'm supposed to make like mini games in each dungeon with that. So maybe it's going to take a little bit longer depending on how overscope I make those mini games. Again, knowing me, probably fairly. But we'll see. Thank you everybody for hanging out on this extra Monday stream. And we're back tomorrow.